Tonight I have the pleasure of introducing tonight's speaker, which I'm so excited that Stacey is going to share with us tonight. I can tell you that I met Stacey a little over 2 years ago, and the girl that I met 2 years ago is nothing compared to the girl that she is today. When I met her, she was broken. She had health problems. She wasn't sure if she wanted to do this, right? Like, she wasn't sure if she could ever get over wanting to use and living a life of recovery. But she chose to give this a chance and follow some suggestions, and the recovery that she has today and the life that she has today is just so amazing. So if you guys don't know Stacey, which you probably do, get to know her because she's really an amazing, strong, badass woman in recovery. And with no further ado, I will introduce Stacey.
Okay, can you guys hear me? Yeah. Okay, so I put some questions up here as like self-reflection questions to start us off. I'm Stacey, I'm an addict. Hi. So when I first got clean, I was in the middle of navigating a lot of health problems that I developed from using. And so that bottom question, have you ever felt you were too far gone to be able to recover? I 1,000% believed that. I 1,000% believed to my core that I had just done too much physical damage, that it was going to be too hard to navigate through that. It seemed like I was looking up at like this cliff, and I had no climbing gear, and I had to get up it. So the physical consequences that I developed from using were endocarditis, which is a heart infection, and it's an infection in your heart valves and the lining of your heart. And so when I was using, I would go to the hospital because I would be really sick, and the hospital would tell me that I needed to stay there for 6 weeks of IV antibiotics, and I just felt like that was impossible. When they said that to me, I would say, like, they said I needed to stay there for 6 weeks, but what I heard was I can't use for 42 days. So from there, I would stay for like a week of antibiotics, and then I would leave, and it like stabilized me to where I wasn't like losing consciousness and having this intense fever, but it never let the infection fully go away. So eventually I went to the hospital, and after like years of doing this, I went to the hospital and they rushed me into open heart surgery to replace the valve that was infected, that was damaged. And when I get out of heart surgery, they tell me that I need to stay clean, that I needed to stop using or my heart valve wouldn't sustain, it wouldn't heal right. And so I get discharged from the hospital, and literally within 30 minutes I'm using again. So the next 6 months, that was 6 months before my clean date, that heart surgery. So for the next 6 months, I was in and out of jail quite a bit. I would go back to the hospital, and for multiple different reasons, like I overdosed a lot and I went to the hospital. I got Marshman acted a lot and I went to the hospital. And so one of the times I go back to the hospital, they do some tests. They tell me that the heart infection's back, that my new heart valve didn't heal right, that it was leaking again, and that I would need to be 6 months clean to qualify for a new heart surgery. And I was like, I heard 6 months, and I was just like, I literally looked at the doctor and I was like, you're asking me to do something impossible. So, and I had drugs on me at the time, and I was in the hospital, and I used the IV that the hospital placed to intentionally overdose. And that when I came to, like, thank God that they saved me, that, and I came to, and the doctor was like, holding a clipboard in her hand, she was looking at at my charts, and she was like, you have so much instability, you have so many against medical advice leavings, we're holding you here involuntarily until you're medically cleared, which you won't be medically cleared until your 6 weeks antibiotics are done. And so the next day is my clean date, and I stayed the 6 weeks at the hospital, and I had warrants out for my arrest also, so I get to the Salvation Army, not because I wanted to, literally only because I had warrants out for my arrest, and I didn't want to go back to jail. And I heard that if you went to this place called Sally, that they would maybe recall your warrants. So I get to the Sally, and I don't want to be there. I want to use so badly. And I also had developed this reasoning that I was too far gone, that my health was too bad. Nobody understands how bad I am. I just got open heart surgery and I still kept using. You guys, I'm different. That terminal uniqueness, And so, but I'm there, and just a day at a time, I stayed there and I started listening to the meetings people were bringing in, and that phrase where the body goes, the mind will follow, that 1,000% happened to me. So I was in these meetings, and I finally got the courage to speak to a woman that I recognized from the recovery pod, and I was like, it's just hard to try when you've messed up your health this bad. She was so casually, she's like, well, my husband had endocarditis and he's been clean for a few years. And I was like, what? I didn't realize, honestly, I had known a few people with endo when I was using, and they all passed away. And I knew a girl that got the same heart surgery that I got, and she passed away. So that was my exposure to it, but I had no exposure to people in recovery. So when she said that, it just it made me feel a little bit of a connection that someone may have experienced what I experienced, and they're clean now. And so I stayed around and I started listening to people's shares, and I started listening to the people chairing meetings, and I saw these same people coming in and chairing meetings every week. And I was just dude, these people care so much. I don't do anything volunteer once a week on time every week that I don't care about, And so I started thinking, I started listening to people all these different experiences that everyone else had, and they all felt that same way. The too far gone, the damage was done, whether it was physically, whether it was emotionally, whether it was to their relationships. It was damage that they were trying to navigate healing through. And so I started doing step work. So I asked that woman to sponsor me. I started doing step work, and also the guy that she was talking about, her husband that she was talking about, he had service commitments at the Sally, and he came in, and I was like, oh yeah, I had endo, I was in the hospital, and we started laughing about how the heart monitor always falls out of your hospital gown, and about getting wrapped up in the wires, things that I felt no one else would understand. And then I was looking at a living example of someone being clean that had navigated that. And I started doing step work, and the step work, step one in a step working guide that's very detailed, showed me that I had this tendency to over dramatize and crisis mentality, things that people walk through every day. And then I had this tendency to completely disregard things that were very severe, like how I completely disregarded my heart being infected and wouldn't stay at the hospital and stuff. So I finally got to where, so when I was 3 months clean, 4 months clean at the Sally, and I was kept hearing in my head these heart doctors saying that you won't qualify until you're 6 months clean. And I'm all right, dude, I'm getting there. 4 out of 6 months, I'll qualify, they'll take care of me. And I start calling all these health insurance places, because my health insurance had expired. So that was the first thing that I viewed as a barrier. I'm my health insurance expired. So I start calling doctors, and the doctors are well, we can't take self-pay. And then I finally found doctors that would take self-pay, and they were well, we can't take you because you're an active case. You need to go back to the heart surgeon that did your first case. So then I called the heart surgeon that did my first case, and he was you owe us a hefty amount of money. and I didn't have it. So I called my sponsor, because I had these things in place now, right? I shared about it in meetings. I thought all the time, these girls at the Sally must be so sick of hearing me talk about my heart, but they weren't, and they were very supportive. And I called my sponsor, and I'm saying all this, this barrier and this challenge and this barrier. And she's I have a feeling if you just stay clean one day at a time, and you do the next right thing, one thing at a time, so you don't get overwhelmed, God will give you a way to fix your heart. And so I just like, I literally hung up the phone with her that day, and I just chose to believe that, because like the altar of that would be like continuing justifying my using, which I had done for so many years, and it got me in such dark places, and I wanted to do something different, finally. So, and I kept hearing trust the process. That's why I put that face next to trust the process. Because like, when I first started hearing that, I was like, all right, dude, I'm here, trusting the process. Like, but I really started to like participate in the process of being like just staying clean one day at a time, doing the next right thing, like, and trying to listen and trying to like, instead of like noticing the differences, notice the similarities. And that step work showing me that like I either created crisis mentality or completely disregarded things. I heard once that it's only a toxic or it's only a bad pattern or a bad behavior until you develop some awareness, and then it's a chosen behavior. And so I didn't want to choose to disregard my health anymore. I didn't want to choose to crisis mentality and talk myself out of even trying to get clean because my heart was damaged. And so I ended up leaving the Sally, like finished the Sally, and pretty much finished. And I, about 3 months later, I'm in a 90 and 90. I'm literally on like day 87 out of 90 of my 90 meetings in 90 days. And I start like not being able to breathe. Long story short, I get admitted into the hospital. Clean. For the first time, I'm like chilling in the hospital clean. And I was like, I celebrated 9 months clean in the hospital. I was so excited to be 9 months clean. That was like the thing that I was focused on. And I also like had developed this faith that like, even though I couldn't see the path forward, that like there was a path forward. And as long as I just continued to do the right thing, it would reveal itself. And so everybody showed up for me too. Like everybody from the rooms came to the hospital, celebrated my 9 months clean. My friends brought meetings into the hospital. And then they start to move forward like they're gonna do another surgery. And I like thought this was the solution, you know? This is what I got clean thinking was the solution. And so they do all this prep in preparation for the heart surgery, like pulling my teeth. They pulled a bunch of teeth out of my mouth because they just have to do that before you get heart surgery. So this is like, this moment is such like a God moment to me. So I go to the operating room to get my teeth pulled, and I'm waking up from the surgery from general anesthesia, and I like literally don't even have my eyes open yet. And this nurse is like, hey, you're just waking up from getting your teeth pulled. Are you in pain? Do you want anything for pain? And I was like, instantly my recovery spoke for me. I was in a 90 and 90, like I was so connected and actively working living a recovery program that my recovery spoke for me. And I was like, no, thank you, I'm in recovery. And instantly my disease was like, dude, you just missed your chance. Why'd you say no? Like she just offered. And I opened my eyes, and the nurse has a dragonfly pin on her name badge. And like a dragonfly is like my God moment. It's my mom. It's like my parents telling me that I'm right where I'm supposed to be, that everything is okay. And so I was like, all right, I made the right decision. And it's just crazy to show like the different perspective that I gained and like developed in myself. Because a few months later, I went to the hospital to get a heart cath, and I go to pre-op, and I'm thinking that they do it under general anesthesia. You know, I had never gotten a heart cath before, and they do not do it under general anesthesia. And they were like, hey, we need you to sign these waivers for a sedative. And I was like, what? I thought it was under general anesthesia. They're like, no, we need you to sign this consent form for blank. And they literally named my drug of choice. And this was, like I said, a few months later, and I just, without hesitation, was like, I'm not signing that. Like, I'm not signing that. And there was no, like, second guessing like my brain had done a few months ago. Like, it just was not an option. And I was like, there's no way that my heart, like the heart doctor that worked my case was the same heart doctor that I had against medical advice left for like years and years and years. So he definitely knows that I'm not taking that. And they did the heart cath, and I was completely awake, and I had no sedative, and it was fine. And so now I am still navigating some vascular issues. I have cardiovascular damage, and I'm on heart failure medicine that helps me not have congestive heart failure, and it just and I just move forward knowing that God has a plan, and with the vascular problems, I think it's a lot of just damage from using, and but I have doctors that work my case, and that's part of me practicing loving myself, is to practice what's doing best for me, and that's practicing going to the doctor and taking my medicine on time and figuring out what works, and that's just through experience. I know now that when I have to go get blood drawn, I need a doctor's order to draw it out of my foot because they can't get my arms, and I just learned that, and I'm very grateful that I didn't let those voices that I was alienated because my heart was bad or anything like that stop me from trying. And yeah, so I think I'm gonna wrap up my little spiel and welcome our panel. Thank you. Okay. Are these all on? Are you guys on? Yes. Okay. So welcome our panel. If you guys want to introduce yourselves first, please.
Hi, I'm Cassandra. I'm a grateful recovering addict.
I'm Ivy. I'm an alcoholic.
My name's Steven. I'm
Hi, Steven.
Hi, everybody. I'm Lori. I'm an addict.
Hi, Lori.
Hi, Lori.
Okay. So first, can you guys each share what physical consequences you either developed in addiction or that you're experiencing while being in recovery?
Sure. My name is Steven. I'm an addict.
Hi, Steven.
I really enjoyed your story. I'll say that because it took me back to a lot of emotions and feelings that I had kind of pushed to the wayside. I went back to the hospital or to the, I had endocarditis as well, and kidney failure, heart failure, my organs were completely shutting down because of endocarditis, and after the fact, I finally found my avenue to get away from using, and went back to the heart and vascular hospital, whatever you want to call that, and they told me then, when I was sick, that even if I got clean, I wouldn't live but 5 more years. Mm-hmm. That was my lifespan. I would die, right? That's as long as my heart would last. And 5 years later, when I went back, they told me that the same doctor was there, and he told me he didn't believe what he saw because I had completely healed. Mm-hmm. I don't know what the rules are. We Jesus or no Jesus?
No, you're good. Jesus it up. Jesus it up.
Sorry, I didn't ask. Yeah. So, and I think that's all due to a higher power. Okay. I think that's all due to my higher power because, there was a time where I didn't know that I was going to live. I had come to the realization that I was going to die in that way of life. Things that I struggle with today is, I think, just typical stuff that addicts go through, like obsessive compulsive disorder, and I can't sit still, I can't concentrate on one thing, but I feel like we all kind of, very self-centered, self-aware, if you want to call it that. Nobody calls me narcissistic anymore, though.
Thanks, Steven.
Thank you.
Lori.
I'm Lori. I'm an addict.
Hi, Lori.
And
I'm really nervous. I just want to say that out
You're
loud.
doing so good. We love you.
And navigating health issues and active addiction, and navigating some health issues now in recovery. I just beat myself up in active addiction for 26 years, drug my feet down the streets, you know, just trying to get that next one. And I can remember a time, I don't want to get too long, but in 2007, I was arrested, and when I got to the jail, I had a fever of 104.7, and I remember the nurse saying, "This is the highest fever we've ever seen in an adult." And so I went to medical. I felt like I was dying in there, and I begged to go to general population. My roommate in medical was crazy, and I was gonna kill her. But so I begged to go to general population. They put me up there, and the girls up there was like, "This girl's dying," like. So they had the guards, you know, not, you know, got their attention, take me. I ended up going to the hospital, and wow, like I didn't want to say this, but I'm gonna say it because I feel like God's moving me right now. I have over 7 years clean, and I've never said this like out loud and publicly, but I feel like I'm supposed to. But I was diagnosed with HIV, and it kept me using for a really long time. I was so ashamed, you know, and I feel like it's almost like a relief to say that, you know, because there's a lot of people in this room that I've known for a long time, and I've told some people, but I'm a daughter of the highest king, and
That's right.
and he doesn't judge me. And honestly, like, I'm so loved by so many people, and I love myself today, and I'm engaged to be married, you know, like people love me, you know. I just don't want to, so I said that out loud. But you know, that was 18 years ago in 2007, and I've been undetectable since, you know, and I take care of myself today.
That's right.
And currently in recovery. I was diagnosed with epilepsy a year and a half ago. And it's refractory, I think it's called, epilepsy, so no medications are working for me. And I was diagnosed to Tampa, to USF, to see a specialist up there. And he said, let's try this last one, and it's not working. So I see him on the 12th of next month, and we're gonna probably evaluate for brain surgery. And that's really scary, you know, but like, we have so many people in these rooms, you know, in recovery that are able to navigate things in recovery, like Stacey was talking about, and like my friend Steve was talking about, and my fiance had 3 major surgeries in recovery with, you know, 10 years clean and never left with a narcotic. Big surgeries, you know, so like these people are my strength, and I know that I can get through anything in recovery, and I'm gonna leave it right there.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Lori, for sharing that. You're so strong, and I love you so much.
I love you.
Ivy?
All right. Where do we start with this list? No, so, God, there was a lot of medical stuff in different stages because there was a lot of alcohol abuse for a long time. We had kidney, liver, spleen, and pancreas shutdowns, multiple comas, medically induced, permanent damage to my esophagus and stomach, but that's manageable. Alcoholic insomnia, high blood pressure that's finally under control. Most everything is all under control except for the esophagus stuff. Kidneys and all that came back online, the liver enzymes, the spleen and pancreas, that all balanced out finally. Painful. Tell you what, liver's painful. Yeah,
Thank you.
there's more, but yeah, that's the base.
Thank you for sharing. And Cassandra?
Hi, I'm Cassandra. For me, well, early in my recovery, in my first year, I had a baby, and during that, after she was born, I thought it was a great idea to go get my teeth looked at, because when I got into recovery, my teeth were falling apart. I suffered from decalcification on my teeth, so I've always had bad teeth. But when I got into further in my addiction, they became brittle and they started breaking. And then when I got into recovery, they started falling out. And so I just could not look at myself. I'm like, so I'm clean and here I am and this is what I look like. And I just didn't like any of that. And so I found out that my insurance covers dentures. So, but I was terrified. Like, I started sharing about it in meetings, because what they would have to do was they were gonna pull 32 teeth out of my face in the same day, not separate, and no anesthesia. It was all shots. And I am a big crybaby when it comes to physical pain. And the only time I felt any little bit of pain, I was high, so like I didn't even feel it, right? And so I was super nervous, and but I talked to several women who went through something similar to that extreme, and they did it without narcotics at all. So, but they were put to sleep. So, so I was very, very nervous, and but I must say I did it with no narcotics at all. And they ripped out 32 teeth in an hour. I started bleeding really heavily, so they had to stop. And when they stopped, like, that's when I started feeling the pain, you know. And so they had to put another shot in my mouth. And believe it or not, ibuprofen 800 really works when you're not hot. It works. I'm telling you, I did that with my childbirth. That shit works. And so my recovery time after all of that was only a couple days. Like, that is amazing, you know? And so I had no teeth for 8 weeks because I had to wait for the swelling to go down. And I thought I was going to be embarrassed, but you know what? All you lovely people loved me, even without my damn teeth, right? And so I walked into facilities with my service work, and I still did meetings. And that just didn't stop me, you know? I was breastfeeding in meetings with no teeth, like, fuck, right? And so today, I mean, it is what it is, you know? But that's how much I'm dedicated, right? Like, I still have to keep showing up. And so today what I'm struggling with is, so a week ago, I had to go back in to get them adjusted. And they decided they were going to send me a different set of teeth. So this is what it is right now. I was ready to come across that chair and get somebody, you know. But I started texting women that I respect in recovery and told them what was going on. And they're like, what in the world? Like, you got somebody else's teeth? Like, what? I don't think it's actually somebody else's, but it wasn't mine, right? And so my higher power fucking showed up in that room that day, because not only did I get my refund, but I get beautiful teeth that do not look like this, and it's free, and it's all free. So I get to go tomorrow. I get to go tomorrow, and we get to start the process. So that's an amazing outlook to, you know, in that situation. Like, my teeth are like everything, and you know, when they told me that they broke my shit, like, I was ready to go to jail. And so I just applied the spiritual principles and my steps in that moment by reaching out in that freaking moment while I was sitting in that chair, because if I didn't do that, I probably would have swung on somebody. That's my old behavior, though, you know. But I didn't do that, you know. I didn't do that. I reached out for advice, and I'm going to have a beautiful smile. So
that's right.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Cassandra. Okay, so what I really think is very important is to realize that any physical any specific health challenge or whatever is all really a metaphor for like life on life's terms, and the fact that like this can be mental, this can be physical, this can manifest in so many different ways, and that like this solution that we're going to talk about can be applied to anything, to any kind of battle or challenge or thing that you view as like a barrier. So Lori, question for you. Were there moments when your mind was your biggest enemy? How did you work through that?
There's a lot of times when my mind was my biggest enemy, and even still today. But like with the health issue that I talked about previously and led into recovery for so many years is like people will judge me, and nobody will understand, and everybody's uneducated, and people will make fun of me and stuff like that. With the epilepsy, it's, I mean, just fear and fear of the unknown. And am I going to come out of this? Am I going to still be able to work? I like to work. But I think definitely my mind, can definitely be my biggest enemy without, like applying the steps. My Choose Narcotics Anonymous is my 12-step program. And I try to apply 1, 2, 3 all the time, which is like notice a problem and then reach out to God, insert God. Like there's a problem, God, and like turn that fear and that mind stuff over to Him.
Thank you. Thank you, Leigh. All right, and then Ivy, the same question. Were there moments when your mind was your biggest enemy? How did you work through that?
A lot of it is like Lori said, talking to God about it. Having that spiritual connection, spiritual conditioning really helps. And you've got your support network, and that helps. But at some point, somebody's not going to answer a phone, and it comes down to you and God.
Yeah.
And so mentally, I've got to be prepared for that aspect of my recovery as well. And so yeah, that's how I deal with that.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, and Cassandra, how did you deal with the shame or guilt that came with your addiction or health issues?
I like that question. So I had a lot of that, right? Like in the beginning, I had a lot of shame and guilt, especially with my children. A lot of the things that I did, I didn't think I could forgive myself. But with the step work and the support that I have in recovery and also my higher power, and the daily living amends that I get to make with these people, like my children, that's what's helped me get through that. And also becoming a different person, changing old behaviors. I believe that if you are sincerely and genuinely sorry for what the things that I have done, I need to make a change behavior. So that's what I try to do every single day, is continue to change my behavior and be aware of the things that I do and be more mindful. So
thank you. Thank you, Cassandra. Okay, and then these questions, interconnected recovery, and I think one of the questions that, or one of the things that I hear a lot of people, my entire life is in recovery, all my friends are in recovery, and one of the things that you hear the most is your support network. Have you reached out to your support network? So how important is your support network in your ongoing recovery? How do you nurture these relationships? And I'll start with you, Lori.
I think that having a good support network is so important. The opposite of addiction is connection. Mm-hmm. And life shows up, life happens. Just because you get clean doesn't mean you don't get sick, or you don't get epilepsy. Like anything can happen, a car accident. And I know for me, like when I'm going through something, I have a home group, I have a friend group, I go to church, like I have all of these people in my life, and I keep those connections like really solid. And it helps because you don't show up to a meeting, people are like, hey, are you good? Where are you at? It's definitely connection and staying connected, and even if, you know, even if you're not reaching out to people, as long as you have those people in your life, you're gonna reach out to you, and also just to have those people to reach out to. I feel like I'm not making sense anymore, but just connection, because it's opposite of addiction, and it really, really helps.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I'm Stacey, I'm an addict. I love that connection is the opposite of addiction, and like in hindsight, reflecting back, like I can see that those were the moments that like I first felt connected to something bigger. Was like that moment when my sponsor was like, oh, well, my husband had endocarditis, and when I got to talk to him and we were joking about like the heart monitor and stuff, like that was a connection to someone else, that was connection to something bigger than me, and that was connection and like seeing hope in the fact that like someone else was doing this. Like I still didn't really believe that I could do it yet, but seeing other people do it, and then I just, you know, decided that like, why would I not choose to believe that I could, you know? But same question for you, Stephen. How important is your support network in your ongoing recovery? How do you nurture these relationships?
So I think just the power alone of having someone to talk to is unparalleled, right? It says in the literature as well. But you know, it's ever evolving for me. Like as I grow as a human being, the people that I find, I don't know how to say that. You know, I feel like God puts you in a situation, like when you first come into the rooms, he puts you around other recovering addicts, and you're able to benefit from them people, you know, that set of people, and because you have things that like in common, and it's important that you find those people in your life so that you can share your struggles and you can share what's going on with you, and you can get that off your chest, because I strongly believe that it does lessen the power that it has in your life at that moment, is to be able to, even if you don't do anything but hear yourself say it, sometimes that will provide an answer, right, for yourself. It's like talking to yourself out loud, but it could be you could use this microphone, you know, like anything, but someone to give you maybe a different perspective. So that's where, you know, you get into it. But like I was saying, I also feel like it ever evolves, and as you grow as a human being and your life circumstances change, you're going to find other people that you know, they're going to do the same thing. I guess to kind of bounce off of what she said, you know, when we're in our addiction, we're isolated. We don't want to help. We want to hide in a closet. And we, you know, want to be unbothered. But as we start to grow and we find those connections, it's important that we you know, we take care of them and we cherish them, because we don't know when God's going to shift us, right? So I think it's just very important. And I believe, now that I got the microphone,
Tell me.
I believe that, so I used to believe, I heard the rat park thing, and I did believe that the opposite of addiction was connection, and then they did a study in Sweden, and I believe the opposite of addiction is purpose. And purpose is why you have a reason to get up and go to work every day, people to serve, service commitments, and all those things. I think that's the change.
I love that. Yeah. Jim Carrey has a quote that the opposite of pain isn't happiness, the opposite of pain is purpose. And so like I love that. And for sure, like I feel so much purpose in my life, and I don't think I would be able to stay clean without the other many parts of my recovery that I do daily. I don't think I would be able to stay clean without feeling like I had a purpose to be here, like God has a bigger purpose and plan. Thank you, Stephen. Okay, Ivy, same question. How important is your support network in your ongoing recovery, and how do you nurture those relationships?
Well, like I said, the support network is extremely crucial and important. The connection with their higher power is as well. And I do a thing with my buddies, they're my closest friends. So like there's moments, like Stephen was saying, where you just need to hear yourself. And so I have moments with my closest friends where we, I don't know if anybody's seen it online, they call it like the 8-minute rule. So you text your friend and say, do you have 8 minutes? Because anybody can step away from work or something for an 8 to 10 minute break. And so the deal is, when we call, you have 8 minutes to just unload. They're not going to tell you how to fix it. They're not going to tell you what you need to do. They're not going to walk you through your emotions. They're going to let you self-evaluate and move through and process. And that helps a lot with my network.
I like that.
Awesome. Yes. Thank you, Ivy. All right. And I think for the sake of time and for moving forward, Cassandra, do you want to talk real quickly about how you nurture your
I mean, I can,
relationships?
but it's the same as
Okay. So the next one is talking about faith, purpose, and spirituality. So Cassandra, how has your sense of purpose changed since being in recovery?
How has my sense of purpose? Well, it's changed drastically. I mean, my purpose before recovery was, trying to get that next high, right? So since being in recovery, my purpose has actually changed over time. In the beginning, it was just learning about staying clean. That was my purpose. How do I stay clean right now? And so now, like, I guess you could say it was self-centered. I was thinking about myself, just trying to learn how to navigate. And now I feel like I'm other-centered. So, like, I'm always thinking about how can I help somebody else. I'm in a position in my mind now. It's not just my outer self, but my inner self. I feel like I've done enough work where I can actually help other people and not hurt them, So my purpose right now in this moment is to be here for others in their recovery. So,
thank you. Lori, was there a moment you felt a spiritual shift or awakening?
Yeah. Trying to think. My brain don't work too good.
Yes, it does.
I had given her this question and thought about it, but I've had a lot of spiritual awakenings since I got clean, and even in active addiction. I had one in detox. I was Marchman acted by the dope man. That is a true story. That's true. I was like in a dope hole in the back room, pretty much just consuming as much drugs as I could, rotting away. And I remember knocking on the door and them saying, "Laura, the door's for you." And I couldn't even walk. I was army crawling, and I had infection in my eyes, sores all over my back, and in detox, I was just like, all right, just a couple days, I gotta get out of here. And I had a spiritual awakening in that detox. It was just like a moment where I was like, I can do this. And I think it was when they handed me that sheet of paper, because they were like, tick-tock, like, you've been here for a long time, you gotta go, basically. And I was like, I don't have nowhere to go. I had like broken shoes, they had cut my clothes up, all the strings out, and they handed me the paper of all the halfway houses and rehabs, and the only thing on there that was free was a Sally. So I was like,
that's right. Thank you, Lori.
I had nothing left. I had nothing left, so I chose the Sally, and I've been clean ever since. So, yeah.
Praise God. Amen. All right. Thank you, Lori. And Stephen, what role did faith or spirituality play in your recovery?
So in my active addiction, I always had a relationship with God. Maybe my spirituality wasn't connected as much as it is currently, but I used to pray. You would hit these lows in your active addiction, and I would pray, to deliver me, to get me out of this, because I had seen Him work in my life before, like, it got really bad, right? So I knew it was possible, and I knew that He was that powerful, right? And the way that I would look for Him for answers was church signs, and just like random things would pop up, right? And everywhere I turned, even if I did Bible roulette, it would come, be still, right? Be still. And I can remember like getting so frustrated because it was like, I am literally dying from my addiction and you keep telling me to be still, right? And then finally I ended up reading one day, I was getting out of the hospital. I had to face some warrants that I had accrued, wreckage of the past, and I read someone, I don't remember how it come to me, but somebody told me about Jeremiah 29:11, right? It said, that knows that he has a place for me, or plans for me, plans to make the crooked places straight and to use my life for his glory, right? And at the time, I didn't understand what that meant because I had been so, screwed up to that point. And today, I get to see it come to fruition, right? Because I get to see where he's taken my wreckage, and maybe not as much now as it was a couple years ago, but he's taken my wreckage and used that for his glory, right? And it's a really amazing thing because all that negative things that were in my life, he turned it all to good, like that, right? And outside of that, the spirituality, I every morning I get up, I read 4 verses of the 4 chapters. Is it chapters? Not chapters. 4 sections of the Bible, and then I write down 1 verse. And I before I get out of bed every morning, I pray to my higher power that he guide me in my thoughts and my actions throughout the day. I'm not very successful, and I know somebody's going to rat on me, but I do my best. I am just human, and I think it's highly important that you build that relationship with your higher power.
Thank you, for sure. I definitely agree. I think that's so important. When I first was going through, going to the hospital in my 90 and 90, it was my last week in my 90 and 90, I remember getting out of that and just being really confused. And just thinking there's a scripture, I don't know which one it is, I just talked about it with my roommate in the car, but you have not because you ask not, and you have not because you ask with bad intentions. And I knew that I was asking for God to guide the doctors to choose whatever was for the greater good, whatever was aligned with his will. And I believe that. I just completely have blind faith that is what's happening, and that is what has been happening from the start. So since we're running out of time, I think on this Living Recovery today, the question, if you could go back and tell yourself one thing in your lowest moments, what would it be? And we'll start with you, Ivy.
It gets a lot better than what it was.
That's right.
That's it. So I appreciate everything I went through. When I look back on it, there's not a single point of that whole experience that I would change, because it made me who I am. And I needed those experiences, and I'm happy for them and grateful for them, and it's only going to keep getting better. So.
Cassandra?
Well, I guess the one thing I would tell myself is that there's another way. I didn't know that recovery, I didn't know anything about recovery. This is actually my first time in recovery, so I didn't know nothing about this life. So that's something that I would love. I wish I could have told myself back then that, there's another way. There's just another way. So.
Thank you. Lori?
I mean, it's the same, it was after I swallowed 8 bottles of pills. I tried to kill myself and then prayed, God, I know this is wrong, but I'm ready to come home, take me. Before that, what I would have told myself is, my kids need me,
Thank you, Lori. You want to answer the questions?
you're not here for a long time, but you're here for a good time.
All right, what a good way to close it. I want to take a second to thank our panel for their vulnerability, for being so strong. Let's give them a hand, guys. I love you guys all very much. And I watched Cassandra come in with 9 months pregnant and no teeth to the salad. She just waddled on in and got her service commitment on. I will close with Helen Keller has a quote, and it's she does. She has multiple quotes. And although the world is full of suffering, it is also full of the overcoming of it. So, yeah.